Kind of.
Thank you.
I can't.
Okay.
Robert Jones.
Thank you, Rob.
Thomas.
Thomas.
Isaiah Ashburn.
Thanks for that.
Robert Down.
Hey, hello.
Darrell Rollins.
Hello there, sir. Good to see you.
Sean Clark.
Thank you. So first thing I want to do is just, if anybody wants to just share what, what do you want to see improved? What are the priorities? Does anybody have any thoughts? Just in terms of, sure.
I find coming out of the facilities.
Could you stand up? I'm sorry, because in the back.
I think people in our shoes could benefit greatly from to have more an opportunity for work.
For work.
All
right, employment. Employment's so important. All right. Thank you. So work is so important. Obviously, employment.
Opportunities for the young men that's coming home that I think the first thing you need is a cell phone. Because I feel like you're stuck out here without a cell phone.
The importance of communication, the importance of the cell phone, right?
Yeah.
So-
When you come here, that should be the first thing that you give is a phone. You
So
can communicate.
what they have to do is they have to register to get the phone. They have to register for federal benefits, and they can get the phone, but it's only after they're registered. So what you need is, generally, you need is your birth certificate, you need ID, and then they can get it. But that's what the law requires.
I want to say something real quick.
Sure.
What we do here, that day Friday, we give out free phones. Lady comes in and give out free phones. We do that. We provide that service. That's the whole thing I want to get. We doing a whole lot of things. But I'm gonna tell you, we doing a lot of things. That's a key point. Glad you brought it up, and we're addressing it as we speak. So I want you to know that we do that. You know somebody, all right, you can let them know. Come in now to see Bergen Street to see me on a direct. They need to see the staff. We'll make sure they get the phone. Give them out on Friday.
Yeah, but what you need is the long-term Caldwell South right that you can get free phones at New Jersey Reentry. But the better package, it's not just having phone, it's having the package, right? It's having the service. The better service is through the program that provides for, but you need required ID, birth certificate to get that. But we hear that we do give out the free phone, but the best service requires that level of identification. But thank you. Anything else?
Thank you. I thank you for everything you have done. Housing is a big issue for us coming home. That's the biggest issue. They're sending us to shelters. And if you don't have no family like myself, I was blessed because I came home and I did have family members left that looked out for me. So if you don't have no family, most of us spend a lot of time in the system.
Yep. Hey,
And
Pat.
and you come home and you don't have nowhere to go, housing is a big issue.
Housing is a big issue, right? And so that's why we're concerned about, and that's why I'm concerned about with this federal change that Congress and the White House did on they call it the Big Beautiful Bill, I call it the Big Beautiful Disaster. But I mean, what happens is these guys aren't gonna qualify for TANF. They're not gonna qualify for SNAP. They're not gonna qualify for Medicaid unless they have that employment component. So it's not only not doing better, but I've got a real personal fear that it's gonna be even more challenging. And that's what we're trying to get in front of. And that's why what you guys being here today is important, because we need people to take the message back to Trenton that with this big, beautiful bill, it's gonna be even more challenging. Because now you're gonna have to be able to sign up and you have to be able to demonstrate a work requirement in order to qualify. So I appreciate it. So sending that message is gonna be important for the LG to hear. And he's a good man. He's a pastor, he's dedicated, and the governor is a good person. When she worked in the U.S. Attorney's Office, she worked with Reentry, so she gives a darn, she cares. But I mean, we've gotta just keep it real so people understand what the challenges are. And I mean, candidly, the guys in this room are the elders. You guys are the elders of the community. You guys have lived through it. You have wisdom, you have grace. You know what works and what doesn't work. And that's why this conversation is really important. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a suggestion.
Sure.
One of the issues that I faced when I got out is, identification.
Okay.
Now, some of these places provide, an ID. But my idea is, why can't we have something, a law maybe or something out by the legislature stating that upon release, the state should get us ID, birth certificate, social security card, so that when we go looking for these things, we have the ID with us.
So that's what we do now here. We have legal services and we get an ID. Thanks, Chris. He just bought that. He just bought that in Kmart last week. All right. So, Kat, could you just talk about how we go about getting the ID process? The identification.
The motor vehicle?
Yeah.
Oh, so you work with we work with our, legal services person, but we have a new person on staff now who haven't already met him, Fran Ryan. And so with your birth certificate, social security, and ID, you need your birth certificate and social security card to get the motor vehicle
That's my
ID.
point.
So that's a
Excuse me.
process.
No, but just explain how we get, just
Yeah.
explain how we get the
How do
birth
we get that?
certificate.
So the birth certificate, you come in here, you do the application, you work with our legal services person who helps you to fill out that application. We submit it through our agency, and we have a staff person that submits it down into Trenton. It usually takes about 2 to 4 weeks to get it. We have a staff person that goes to Trenton to pick up all of the birth certificates when they come. When the original birth certificate arrives on site, you're getting an immediate contact to come in to sign for it, and we'll also give you additional copies. So you'll have the original sealed, and then from there, those of you that don't, you may need to get your social security. So once we have birth certificate, now we can then apply for the social security card. And that usually takes about 2 weeks to get that. Then we're good to go now with the motor vehicle ID, and then hopefully get your license and have all of your credentials in place.
But when you came out though,
I came out 25 years ago, so I know back
it's
then.
more like 85, no, I'm 25 years ago. But you're right, people, yeah, go ahead.
I said, we used to have what they call a certificate of parole. That when you got out, they gave you this paper, and everywhere you went, all you had to say was, "Oh, I just got out on parole," to show them that paper, and you was through.
Yeah.
Nowadays, they don't give you anything.
Yeah.
And we used to have gate money.
Yeah.
Nothing no more.
There's
So
nothing
I'm dead
anymore.
broke, yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing.
And that's still a part of the legislature. That's still the law.
What, gate money?
Yeah, K money, and,
13.
yeah,
Gate money stopped for a while.
yeah,
Yeah.
Big, but wow.
Yeah, I should look into that.
yeah.
Just like state pay.
Go ahead.
That's still on the
One
book.
question, it might be a little crazy, but if I was born in New York, the program that Ms. Kathy was speaking of wouldn't help us, right?
No, but still help us.
It'd help us acquire our,
Yeah.
from out of state.
Yep, we do it out of state, we do it in Puerto Rico, we do it all over the world.
Okay.
Yeah. Is it working? Okay.
Why do the process, where you have to go through Trenton? Why not the county in which you were born? Sort of like modify the red tape. Why it has to go through Trenton?
Because Trenton has the Department of Health has the birth certificates. And so what happens is often now the counties, we have a direct relationship with MVC, so we can intervene and say, we're documenting that you are you. And so they'll rely on that, but the county can't make that verification that you're you, but we can do that directly to the state. So we're not gonna get the county to do that, because now, because we're living in the sort of post 9/11 world where ID becomes critically important.
Yeah.
And so now in terms of motor vehicles is now, MVC is now the agency responsible for certifying identifications in the state. So that's why, a great question. It would be far easier, candidly, for us to do it. We send somebody down there on a regular basis, every couple of weeks.
Yeah,
What I wanted to say was something that me and Don was talking about on the way over here. What we need is mostly everybody that's been incarcerated in the Castleton system suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. Because you've been through some major oppression inside of the prison. And they don't have anything situated to assess the individual, even before they get out, so that they can be linked up with a mental health therapist once they get out, so that they can follow up if they have co-occurring situations.
I love it.
You
I
know?
love what you're saying.
Yeah,
We've got our conference at St. Peter's College on April 2nd, Holy Thursday, and the whole focus is on trauma. And we're making the argument that what you just said and what you candidly, it's more powerful coming out of your mouth than my mouth, that obviously whether you're a combat veteran, whether you're coming out of prison, whether you're coming out of addiction treatment, woman coming out of domestic violence, you got to treat that trauma because so much of it is in what's in the head, right? And the argument that we're making is that folks that are coming out of prison, not everybody, but many folks, they literally have done, universities have done evaluations of the mind, and they do what they do, a survival mentality. You're interested in surviving, right? And surviving means fight or flight. So what happens is if you've been in prison or you've been a combat veteran for a number of years and you're just trying to survive, and then you come out and somebody hits you in the subway accidentally or whatever, your whole mentality is fight or flight. I had, I don't know how many guys know Antiba. He was from Essex, but he told me the story. This is a great story. He told me the story when he was in prison. Some guy cut him off in the chow line, and he nearly like had a fight, and it was ugly.
That's normal.
And then he said to me when he came out and he came through this program, his great aunt knocked his tray over, and I said, "Well, what did you do?" And he says, "I got down on my knees and I picked up the peas." And I said, "Well, what's the difference?" He says, "Well, my mother had passed. She was the person closest to me and I loved her." So part of that is he had the ability to think who he was dealing with before he reacted, before he acted, right? Those are great glasses, by the way. We got to give him a award for the best dressed guy here. It's not often I get, the hat, matches the jacket, and then I just saw the socks here.
Put me on
I
out.
know, I'm gonna recognize it. But the important point here is what you said, is the trauma. And so that's one of the things that we're arguing for, is that if you don't take care of the trauma, and I happen to pray every morning, and however you pray, or to me it's all the same God, but however you pray, it's praying for peace, praying to be thoughtful, praying to be compassionate, praying to be loving. But guys come out of prison after, and they're in the survival mentality. You're not looking for God's grace and everything. You're just trying to get through the MFN day.
and see, a lot of people can't connect the dots. See, because a lot of us here.
You need to say this when he comes. This is powerful shit. Excuse me, it's powerful stuff.
Yeah,
Now, I don't think
a
Sam knew, he didn't know that. Go ahead, Sam. In the way for the government to come.
No, I was just gonna say that for most of us that are here, right? And the things we've been through, we've been back and forth in and out of jail, right? It wasn't just like a one-hit quitter. Most of us, and we started so young. So most of us are suffering from ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, that it's never been processed. We've never been able to connect the dots with our conduct disorder, our substance use disorder, how all this goes together, and where it came from. And to top that off, being incarcerated and not
Only
getting
worse
the treatment, that you deserve while you were in there. You don't get none of that type of treatment, and they just throw you back out.
Well, you're so good, and I gotta get your phone number before we. So what happens is, 50 years ago, everybody in the county jail, I shouldn't say everybody, there were a lot of people in the county jail that were addicted, right?
Right.
And like say 30 years ago, I was a young assistant prosecutor, there were a lot of guys that were in county jail or in prison. I used to go into Rollway, that's how I met
Absolutely.
Cal. But there were a lot of guys that were suffering from addiction, and now we woke up, thanks to Senator Ted Kennedy, and we treat people for addiction.
Right.
Now when you go into county jail, I was just in an episode, this actually was a while back now, but there was a guy who came out of a psychiatric facility, came up to a gang member and started cursing him out again and again and again. And the guy's like, well, why are you doing this to me? He didn't know, but this guy was mentally ill.
Right.
And he kept doing it again and again and again. And so what's happening is there's a higher percentage of people now that are suffering from mental illness
Right.
in the county jails and prisons.
Right.
So that's what we're making the argument for, is that you've got to provide people with the capacity to understand what they've been through, but to work with them to help heal them, right?
Right.
Because, and it's just not about medicine. It's about people understanding where they've been, what they've been through, and giving them the support necessary.
Absolutely.
So I agree with you 100%. So what we're saying, but the problem is the criminal justice system is just about guilt or innocence. And the criminal justice system is just about prison. It's not about healthcare.
No.
And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to change that. And so we're trying to talk about psychiatry. We're trying to talk about cognitive rehabilitation,
Right.
to think about their systems.
Right.
But I love what you're saying. I happen to agree with you. I think a lot of folks, I mean, there's some guys that wouldn't help, but there are a lot of guys that would be helped by helping them get through their own shit.
Absolutely. Because there's a barrier.
Yep.
There's a strong barrier.
No, I agree with you 1,000%. Anybody else? Sure, again, I'm sorry.
What I think is that we got two sides of prison, right? Because the reason why I say that is because you take a person that's in Avenel, right? It's civilly committed, okay? They get regular pay, just like they on the streets and stuff. You take a person that got 25 years in, maybe for a murder robbery, they don't get that. But they deserve that same amount of time.
Yeah.
But they're being treated better than somebody that maybe did a burglary, somebody that did an armed robbery, but they're in there for rape.
Yeah.
But the person that's in there for
So you're saying that there's an inconsistency there?
exactly.
That's
So
a good
like,
point.
the 25 years that somebody might have in for murder, right? They don't get a pet. They get slaved in the tag shop. You know, but the person that did rape somebody, they get treated like they're on a pedestal or something. You know, it's two different types of incarceration.
Yep.
You know, and that's something that needs to be addressed because, you know, they did free phone calls, you could call back, they could call you from.
Well, let me look into that and why. But I think that's a fair point. Let me look at that and why, and seeing whether or not that's a legal requirement or that's a legislative requirement, but I hear you. Thank you. Yeah, civil commitments, as opposed to the court
Criminal, yeah.
criminal. So that's what
You
I
got
think.
25 years, you've been civilly committed also.
Yeah, well, not civil versus criminal, but let me check why though, I don't wanna guess. So, but thank you for that. I've never thought of that until you just raised that. What else is important? So we talked about employment, we talked about mental health, parole.
My issue is dealing with parole overall.
Go ahead.
I did 50 years. I was eligible for parole after serving 29 years. And I was denied parole. I went up to parole several more times and still was denied. When I appealed it to federal courts, they reviewed
Hannah, how many times were you denied?
at least 4 times.
4 times. And you know, I don't wanna go into your personal business if you don't want, but why were you denied?
Based on my criminal history.
Just based on the criminal history?
Right.
But it wasn't based on your record in the institution?
No, based on my criminal history.
Okay,
Judge sentenced me to do a certain amount of time,
yeah,
you know.
That's
Just
what I'm
saying.
saying too.
yeah, punitive aspect.
Right. And I'm saying
So I'm sorry, were you sentenced under 2A or 2C?
2A.
2A, the old 2A.
Oh, that's old guys. Yeah.
Old guys, I know, 2A had its problems, but it also had, you know,
At least you can get out.
yeah, at least you can get out.
basically, guys was getting out at their first eligibility, you know, under 2A.
Yeah.
Until 2C and all that came about.
They made it retroactive without saying it.
So I know,
You know,
yeah.
they doubled every time.
So I just want
When
to,
I appealed my arguments to the Third Circuit Federal Courts, they reviewed 2C and 2A, you know, statutes and so forth. They said the hits was double jeopardy. The denial of parole was double jeopardy. In other words, the
sure,
parole was resentencing me when they don't have that authority. You know, they resentenced me to do more time when I should have been processed in parole. You know, at my first eligibility. And that's still an issue. You got guys, this guy right now, he has 53 years and he's been to the parole. They denied him parole. Yeah, they denied him
Larry,
parole.
that's on there.
And,
3 years.
And he was a veteran.
yes,
When
I
his
know,
crime
yeah.
was committed and all that stuff. But I'm saying, he has those issues with the health, you know, but his mental health that should be reviewed. And he should have been released back into the service because he was in the service when his crimes was committed. I'm saying, back in the day, they used to parole veterans.
yeah.
They would go back to the service and they give them mental health and so forth.
So what you gotta do is, Sal, Cal, you gotta get me Larry's information.
I get you.
And, because I'll personally follow up.
Just wouldn't listen to the parole board that night.
So,
I don't actually
Give
know.
another hit.
Yeah,
They had no
okay,
post-traumatic.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I just wanna- So when is his next parole eligibility?
well, I didn't get the status on what kind of a hit he got.
Okay, so can you give me the specifics?
I get it.
And I'll talk to him.
I got it. I take care.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we talk. Everybody is.
So we do a lot of work with veterans.
Yes, we do.
We do a lot of work with veterans. So I appreciate you, Emily, thank you for bringing it to my attention. I didn't know that he had just gone to the parole board.
Yes,
Wait, let him finish, let him finish.
Been there before.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, but he's just telling them about so he got the hit and he's talking, but he's making another point. Under the old 2A, that was, the courts had construed that, but I hear what you're saying.
And also, the guys that have just been released.
Can everybody hear? Yeah, thank you.
The men that just been released.
Sounds like Moses.
And they said that they saying that they have to do 5 years on parole when they released.
Yeah.
Then so the guys that's out here on parole, Poochie Morris,
Yeah.
Julius.
Yeah.
He was out here 25 years.
Yeah.
Committed no crimes or nothing. You know, it took them 25 years to take him off parole. This was ridiculous. You know, it should be a cap on, like they telling these guys now, they do 5 years and they on parole. You know, that should be a criteria. Once you release from parole, they shouldn't have to be on parole with 10, 15 years.
Yeah, but I'm more interested in getting guys out, but I agree. I understand what you're saying. You can't be, we've got guys on parole that are I'll be dead by the time and they'll still be on parole. But I mean, for me, the biggest challenge right now is to getting them out. I mean, so like you gotta pick your battles.
Right.
So Calvin's got another girlfriend called. But I hear you.
So,
But I'm sorry, he announced it back.
To his point, I want to say there are a lot of Larry Lipscombs in prison, right? Specifically, I just did 37 years in prison and was granted clemency by Governor Murphy in January, right? So one of the problems that I have is that with the parole board is that they said the language you ask why. Here's the reason why they give us this. They say that inmates lack insight into his criminal behavior and addictive thinking. This is what they tell the majority of who come before the parole board. In spite of taking every program, therapeutic program that the prison has to offer, completing every educational, vocational program that the institution has to offer, everything, right? I was still being gauged and assessed on what I did 30 years ago.
Sure.
Right? And a lot of us don't have.
We have an advanced trooper that's just coming in to sweep really quick.
Okay, go. We don't care.
A lot of us.
Thanks, Jenny.
Oh, excuse me.
No, I'm sorry.
A lot of us incarcerated individuals don't have the articulation skills to talk about trauma as eloquently as Sapu did, right?
Yep.
So they will hold you accountable because you lack the ability to say what you've experienced and talk about how you said trauma living in our
what's in your head.
body, we carry it around, right? So I think that has to be addressed. Again, even if someone
So I'm just gonna push, I just wanna understand what you're saying. So you're not against parole, the idea of parole, you're against the length of the parole?
Absolutely, like I think that the system has to be revised. Let me give you an example.
Yeah,
So
this is helpful.
Here it is, for someone like me, right? I can give a master's dissertation or a class on trauma, violence, right? What I'm saying is after you take a program 36 months later, that the body Watson Coleman build, there's no room for someone that gave me 140 month hit, right? No matter taking the programs after, right? There was no way that I can go back and say, be reassessed, reevaluated to see if I should be released, right? Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's nothing. Once they give you the hit, the courts don't grant you release, you're done.
Watch out, look at these young state troopers. Look at this guy. What's your name?
Yeah.
Pierre, where you from?
Roselle.
I'm sorry. Roselle's Union County, you must be Haitian.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, exactly. Here. St. Joseph's?
Nah, let's say River Park.
Okay, no, but I'm talking about St. Joseph's Grammar School there.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I have no idea, a friend of
I
mine.
went to Pope.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for being here.
No problem.
Thank you for your example. So, all right. Jen, can you just keep that door shut? I'm sorry. So, but I hear what you're saying, so that's a good point. So I think, more guys are coming inside the point. So your point is your point go to the parole hit or the parole or
The process itself as well as the punishment, additional punishment that they're giving, letting me right? For one, it doesn't take someone 15 years to learn what it means to, what criminal thinking is, right?
Yeah.
As I stated that. If I would talk about lack of time perspective, someone didn't learn from their previous.
but to go back, I mean, thank God Governor Murphy granted that for you, but to go back to your point, it's also, it's what you said, it's what's happening in terms of the hearing itself.
Exactly.
All right. Sure, my friend.
I think that once they took, roll out of, the hands of classification, then things changed. Because things got worse. Because here it is, you have somebody that's you up in front of that only sees you for one day. But then you have classification that's known you for 20 years, 10 years of all your life.
So I just want to understand your point. So your point is is that when they
At
took
one point, classification controlled when you got parole. Then they put it in the hands of the parole board.
I don't know if that's true.
All that.
I don't think classification ever had control.
Yeah, it's a juvenile
You
George,
set up
it's a
when you got
juvenile
the
George.
parole board.
If you with the classification.
Yeah, juveniles, but not for adults though.
Yeah, not adult.
Juveniles.
But let me check, because you know, when Governor Kane was there, I actually worked on the parole board. But I don't remember classification. I think there was a closer relationship with classification, but I never remember classification granting parole though.
Okay, but you have somebody seeing you for one day.
Yeah, no, I agree with
You
you.
really don't know you. But here it is, you have classification when you've been in the prison system 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, that knows you, right? That don't have that opportunity to say, well, this man, he deserves parole. But you might have somebody who sits on the parole board, their family, or they tree never been in trouble.
Yeah.
So they're objective to you automatically.
Cal, there's enough chairs right over here. All these are empty.
What we do with this here, leave the chairs, so Joel.
All right, let's just keep going back. Let's just keep going. Yeah, but I understand what you're saying. So your point is there's gotta be more information between classifications and parole. And you gotta know. I think that's a fair point. That's a fair point. So the whole goal is that you would have a neutral, objective, fair agency determining your parole. And then, I'm just being open with you, candidly, sometimes in corrections, people feel some sort of kind of way about somebody else, and that you didn't want the people that were engaged in the institution determining your parole, you wanted somebody objective, you wanted somebody outside of the institution. So that was, I just want to share with you, there's pluses and minuses with both systems, right? So if you have somebody inside that institution having a significant input, sometimes that can work against the individuals too.
I have one more other thing I want to say.
Shit, you already have three. Wait, let me go back, I'll get back to you, sure.
So I'm just coming in on the conversation, but there are some issues that come up in my mind, just on that last bit that you just said. So my name is Lamar Bacon.
Hey, Lamar.
And I was just bringing clarity on Governor Bergen, January 30th.
Cal, that's enough chairs.
But
Cal, that's enough chairs, one more.
But it is valid, and I understand your concern in terms of, like, you know, it can go against people if there's like resentments against that person by different officers or administrators. However, but for the most part, if a person has been doing the work over the years, that's a different conversation. Because I just went up for parole October 23rd, and I have been 15 years charged free. I did a 30-year sentence. I have been 15 years charged free, earned 3 college degrees, been involved in multiple programs from educational, vocational, therapeutic, and service programs. I went to parole and I got a hit, right? They gave me a 27-month hit. And so what I had done in all of those years and who I had been actually being out of trouble for all of those years didn't justify me getting a hit, right? Because there's no oversight, they get to do whatever. However, there were people who were like actually upset. Like the administrator of the jail was upset that I got a hit because he's known me for years.
Well, that's his point,
Right?
yeah.
There were officers who were upset that I got a hit.
Well, did those officers write anything down for
So
you?
they weren't allowed to, and that was the point. So if you're thinking that I'm manipulating the system because I haven't gotten in charge in 15 years, you can look and see what I've done in that 15 years.
Well, they're supposed to, and
Right?
they do.
So you see the education, you see the therapy, you see the mentoring, you see all of those things happening. And so the other thing is that.
Wait, you trying to say to me that college education means that you know?
Yeah. And so, but the other thing is that I was on B unit for 11 years.
Yeah.
So there were officers who were there for all of that time.
Who
If
knew
you
you?
want to know who I've been in all of that time, you can speak to them.
Yeah.
I've been a wing rank for years, and I have a relationship with Administrator Ganji, Sims, and all of the administrators there, Miguel, everybody, right? And they can speak to you about who I am. And so, but if they're not allowed to do those things, then after all of this time has passed, you can still tell me that there's a high likelihood that I would go out and commit a crime, even though I've done all the work.
Yeah,
right? And so there has to be something in place that,
so what would you do though? So would you, like, so, you know,
they cannot,
yeah, sure, but it's just, you know, and I hear what you're saying, but there's always a balance, right? There's always one side and there's another side. So you develop relationships, people respected your hard work, people respected who you are, but then I know situations where people have been in prison and they've been, from their perspective, they've been the source of unfairness. So the question is, you know, how do you balance that? So there's no foolproof process, right? Because you're dealing with human beings. And so I understand what you're saying, but the question is, do you want to open it up to that kind of criteria, those kind of influences by personnel in the institution? And you're saying yes.
I'm saying that's a part of it, right? But there are a bunch of men from a bunch of different worlds that we can all get together and figure out what that looks like. You know, because like you said, it can be a mixed bag, but we can structure it in a way that says this makes sense.
Yeah, I just wanted to get you.
Yeah, no, just touch on Just Point.
And thank you.
There's nothing barring.
Who are you?
I already introduced myself. There's nothing barring the NJDOC staff from sending a letter of reference, so to speak. They can't send a character reference. They can't send a letter of support for your parole.
But they can
send letters of
your record.
Character reference. Like a teacher can say, hey, this guy has been enrolled in the school or been working for me as a TA for 6 or 7 years. I witnessed his punctuality, blah, 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 bang. But they can't say, I advocate for your parole. Like I said, so it's different. But in practice, they are, by the DOC, they are dissuaded from doing it.
Why would they be dissuaded?
Who knows? I mean, I don't know. As a practice, I can't answer that question, but it is promulgated in 10A that they can send letters of character reference in support. They don't do it. They are dissuaded by the administration. Now, however, that being said, they have so much discretion and latitude to do what the hell they want to do. They do it for the individuals that they want to do it for.
Right. And so
There's been cases where the administrator have submitted character reference letters or captains or majors for individuals. I don't care what their report was, but they can't do it, but they dissuade, as a general practice, other staff members from doing it.
So
Hey, Ben,
like
can you bring in your staff one now? You bring your staff, Kathy? Yeah.
anybody who's been in Northern State knows that Northern State has a different culture, right? One thing that they do, to your point, they hide that stuff, right? And not only do they hide that stuff, they tell the officers and they tell the staff members, you can't do that.
So,
because even KG didn't know, because he was saying he wanted to.
But I think what we're trying to do here is, and I appreciate what you're saying. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense to know your history. It makes sense. You want, for me, you want the most robust file possible, right? And that's really valuable. So here's the Lieutenant Governor. Give him a round of applause. So guys, could you just shut the door there? Thanks, Dan. So LJ, want to come up here? And there's Chop. So thanks so much. Of course. Thank you. So we just and we're just really grateful for you being here. But so I just wanted to focus in on a couple of different things and ask if some of the guys could sort of talk about some of the things that we talked about in terms of priorities. And I think that's really what I'd like to hear about. So, all right, so maybe you just wanted to talk about how the process has changed.
it's been a while for me. I've been out close to 26 years. And the biggest issue I had then was getting identification. You know, they gave me what was called a certificate of parole that I could use to do various things with. But today, when the brothers get out, they don't have that, what we had then. So my suggestion is that they come up with a way for when a prisoner is released, that they have something set up where he can get his ID that same day that he's getting out. That's my idea.
And we do that here, just so you know that. Jen, could you explain what we do on the identification?
Okay, so for
And you just gotta speak up.
So with identifications, we help you guys secure IDs. So we will make sure that you have a birth certificate, social security card. And if you don't have, we'll make sure to order it for you. If you don't have a state ID, we do not leave you without an ID, because the importance of an ID is that you can't even get into a shelter
That's
without an
my
ID.
point.
So what we do is we send them to the city of Newark, and we get them a city of Newark ID, or we try to get them an Essex County ID.
Good. So we do that now for everybody coming through. So everybody coming through, and we send them, Jen, how often do we send them to the Department of Health for the birth certificate?
I mean, once a month. This is
Once a
Thursday,
month? Yeah,
Friday.
no, I know. No, but, and Jenny, I just want to, Jenny's the director. The second thing is I wanted to talk a little bit about, I think we talked a little bit about being released, and we talked a little bit about parole. And I think I think the sense was, for guys, the need, and I'm gonna just ask anybody want to talk, they feel free to talk, but in terms of, parole hits, that the need to have, corrections way more fully in, not a letter of reference, but to way more fully in on somebody's background, somebody's contribution, somebody's efforts as part of that. Did you want to say? Go ahead, first, second.
Served 50 years. I was eligible for.
Can everybody hear?
I was serving 29 years.
Okay, right.
And when I went to parole board, they did not give me 20 years hits, 15 years, and you have to do half of that. Finally, I appealed my arguments to the federal courts, 3-judge panel, and they reviewed the 10A statutes, and they ruled in my favor, stating that it hits for double jeopardy.
Wow.
So in other words, they were saying that the parole board doesn't have the authority to resentence a person once when they go to parole board. They resentence you. If you're eligible for parole after serving as a lifer, you serve 14 years and 8 months under 2A. And you're supposed to get the parole board's job is to prepare you for release, not look for reasons to deny you parole. And that's what happens and continues continuously. You know.
So there were two statutes. There was the old 10A statute, and then there was the old 2A statute, and then there was 2C. And so there were positives and minuses with both statutes, but for my sake, it was actually, I don't want to say easier, but it was almost implied that there was a different level of standard for presumption of release.
Between 2A and 2C.
Between 2A and 2C. Big difference.
They got never two.
Yeah, no early release act.
Yeah,
But on this though, I just want to stick on the parole piece. But part of that is, your first name again is, I'm sorry. Lamar was saying, and we won't talk about a particular prison, but Lamar just talk about how you wanted corrections to, if you have a good track record, you want, and then I'm going to ask Ulysses to talk a little bit about employment next. So Lamar, can you just talk about what you had wanted?
So there's so many things that happens to people who have to seek parole, especially guys who are licensed.
Right.
After spending 3 decades in prison, there's barriers before you even get out. For instance, the halfway house, you can't even get to the halfway house even though you're eligible for the camp.
Right.
So guys are sitting in there languishing because they say, no, you got a life sentence, so this is not for long-term imprisonment, right? But, so what I was saying to him was that in October, I went to parole and got a hit after having not received the charge of 15 years. Earned 3 college degrees, had a bunch of service programs, education, therapeutic, vocation, all of those things. And when I went up, the main thing they kept saying was, I think, I believe, I think, I believe about who I am. And so they're basing their decision as to whether or not I should be released on what they think and what they feel. So the gap between that was that the only thing they had was the paperwork. They had what they knew about me prior to me coming to jail and early in my sentence, and then everything that happened after that. And so to them, it's paperwork. And so I received a 27-month hit.
Wow.
And that was in October. January 30th, I got clemency. Governor Murphy granted me clemency, and now I'm here today. However, had that not happened, I would be sitting there to the middle of 2027.
But Lamar's point is, and I think this is a value. Go ahead, but Lamar, I just want to now, but the point I think that we're trying to make is that, and I'll bring this up to the parole board, and I'll bring it up to corrections, is your record and what you said, your record has to be more fully part of the decision-making process
and
as a factor.
And even to Ruka's point, if those things are codified in 10A, that they have to be actualized.
Yeah.
An actual process has to happen every time somebody's going up for parole. Not, it could be like these are legal and you can have it, or not, depending on who you are. I mean, where you are, what the administration.
It has to be automatic.
Absolutely.
Automatic.
Absolutely. And people should be able to speak because, like I said, I was on one unit for 11 years. And so the officers on that unit knew. I was a wing rep, so the administrators know. One administrator actually, he said, I gotta find out if I can write a reference, a parole letter for you, because I wanna do that. And so, but those things never happened because this wasn't in place to say, every time this happens, this trigger also happens.
Yeah, thanks, Lamar. And I think that's really powerful. And so that's the kind of thing, I mean, I'm really honored that the LG, like, candidly, there aren't many people, like, I gotta show up because I get paid. This guy came here because, you know, he cares and he gives a damn. Even if he's he's a pastor, he's committed, and he wants to hear. So, but I mean, this is the kind of change that we could do. So that's why I apologize when I'm taking notes. When I pull out my phone, I'm not calling anybody. I'm calling Sal. All right, let's go back.
Yeah, I want to ask you about the halfway houses, right? Because,
all right, can we just stick, we'll get there, but I just want to stick with some of the things we talked about beforehand, some of the priorities. I just wanted, like, to say the white brother, can you just share what you said about employment? You got to stand up. So, and then I'm going to ask Melissa Stephanie.
My biggest resistance has been like trying to reintegrate into society, has been just trying to get employment.
Okay.
It's like you get the halfway house and things of that nature, but it's like I think it would be a big benefit to us if maybe the halfway houses had contracts with certain places that would give you a job, that give you a chance to get on your feet. That's been my my hardest thing is trying to get back on my feet, getting a job. I get resistance at every step. The quality. And we're on 3rd and 4th degree crimes.
Good. Ulysses works with New Jersey Reentry, and he's an employment specialist. Ulysses, why don't you just share 30 seconds of your story? Not 30 seconds. You just got to speak up.
My name is Ulysses McMillan. I served 22 years sentence in the FBOP. I was down from 2003 to 2022. I came home, no birth certificate, social security card, no ID, no nothing. I came home June 1st of 2022. June 23rd of 2022, I had a job. I worked at Driscoll Foods warehouse.
Oh, excuse me, who got you the MFN job?
New Jersey, and then while I was working Driscoll Foods, I was also coming through the training center. I got construction certification, I got forklift certification, and I got what's called peer recovery certification. I started here as a van driver, went from here as a van driver to intake coordinator, from intake coordinator to employment specialist, and temporarily a director myself. What I will say is that the first thing that I promote to my orientation guys, I love you guys, the first thing that I promote is acceptance of responsibility for your choices. The second thing that I promote, right, is the character. Before you can get into training, before you can even think about a certification, a resume, anything, your character has to be intact. It has to be in place. Once your character is in place, we build you a strong resume. After we build you a strong resume, we work on training or we work on working based upon what's important to you at the time. Some guys coming home from prison, the first thing they need to do is get income coming in because they have small children, they have wives they need to take care of. So we focus on employment. If that's not the case.
So I just want to go a little slower because
you said 30
no,
seconds.
yeah, but I can't, I'm trying to keep up with you. But you listen, so there are guys that need to pay money now, and so we can get you a job at Acme or ShopRite, whatever. But what we prefer to be is in the business of getting people careers. So we have the training center in Kearney, and I'd love for you, you were there for Christmas. But we have 16 industry recognized credentials, and Ulysses went through, but part of it is, and now we've got a grant from LaFrac, we got $300,000 for CDLs, we're getting people CDLs. But the important point, if you can keep in the back of your mind, Lieutenant Governor LG, is that and we've talked about this, with Trump's legislation, I can't even say those words. With Trump's bill, the real challenge for us is these guys are gonna be coming out, and if they don't secure employment for a minimum amount of time, they'll lose their TANF, they'll lose their general assistance, and they'll lose everything. So what we're arguing is, and this is self-serving, but I think we're right, at Reentry, we have an integrated model between employment, health benefits, and also connecting people to healthcare. So that if people can't work because of mental health or addiction, we can certify them. But if they're just out in the community and they don't have that, those benefits will just be cut off. So that's why we're just trying to make that point with the front office, that you have to have an integrated, cohesive model, because if you're running out trying to get a job and we'll get you training, we'll get you employment, but the whole point is we're gonna get you benefits while we do that. But if you can't get that employment, we can document as an agency that you tried, and we can put you in volunteer services so you still qualify for your Medicaid, whatever. But if you're by yourself, you're whacked. I was gonna say something else, but they'll do the pastor, so yeah. But okay, so we talked about employment. I wanted to go back to you.
Yeah, about that halfway house thing. I feel like that, when I was sent from GOC to, Kintock or Tully House, I was being pimped from one organization to another organization. Meaning is that, when you go to GO or Kintock, the first thing that they do is look to keep you there. They don't look to let you out back into society when you can go out there and get a job or, reintegrate with your family or something like that. They look for you to stay there, for them to downgrade you, don't let you out the building, don't let you to your family, don't let you get a job. It's just a shame that the way that they treat us.
So, yeah, and I, thank you.
You get better treatment here than you do at Kintown.
Shit, they're better. Get that nasty chicken here in the back.
Some of all your money though.
Yeah, my name is Mingle Big Quan, man. I served 32 years. I came home in November 23, so I'm going on 3 years. I served 30 years of life sentence, ended up serving 32. My question is there, or should be, in my opinion, legislation? I think it's a good thing how they did the clemency with a lot of guys. But it's like when you have a 30 life sentence illegally, every sentence should have some type of finality to it. But for us doing 30 years of life, how long do I have to be on parole if I'm out here 10 years, never got in trouble, there should be some type of legislative, or something on paper where, if a person's been out here 5 years or whatever, then their sentence can be changed. It's another form of reduction of sentence, because right as it stands now, 30 to life, there's no finality to our sentences, and I could be on life, on parole for 10, 20 years and be a productive citizen, and it prevents you from things, from going out of the
But
state.
you were released pursuant to clemency, right?
No.
No,
I missed that whole one. I came out before then. Like
Okay.
23.
Okay,
So,
but you're just talking about termination of parole.
the back part.
Yeah.
After you, like I said, after you come home, with every other sentence, there's a finality. So if you got a 20 with a 10, you do that, there's still a max out.
Yeah.
But they can't keep you on.
Well, there was wasn't there under
The old law, yeah.
under 2A, there was.
But not with 2C.
Not with
That's what I'm saying.
2C.
So with the 30 life sentence, like a lot of us served, and which statistics show you probably most of the most highest rate of offenders, least chances of returning.
Under 1%.
Exactly.
But I will tell you, I mean, just personally, if I had a priority, my priority would be to get guys who were in your situation out from behind the wall first, and then move into the parole. But I hear what you're saying,
Yeah,
though.
because after being out here 3 years and doing everything was supposed to, even my parole officer be like, man, you guys that serve this type of time, we really have any
Never.
problems. The statistics are very low.
Yeah.
So at some point, how long do I have to be on parole?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I hear, and a couple of people said that. Jay, do we have everybody, now, do we have everybody's list of who's here today?
No, I just.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is,
They can sign on the way out.
okay, if you sign on the way out, I'm gonna send you a report on geriatric release. So one of the things that I consider, and this is just Jim McGreevy, this is, if for those that have served the punitive aspect of your sentence, to have something called geriatric release, where a judge would be able to provide you with eligibility release. So I hear what you're saying about parole, but for me, guys who are in there, who are there 75, 80, you don't want them to die behind the wall. But thank you.
All right,
Go.
to
I
his,
want to
his
be
point.
respectful of the Lieutenant Governor's time.
Yep, so do you want to say a few words?
Yeah, I just want to say a few. First of all.
Right, can we let, I'm sorry.
Yeah, finish. Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay,
go ahead.
listen, to his point, is with guys that serve life sentences, right? And there's no expiration of getting off parole. So now what you have there, you have what they call the compliance. They have a rule, but it's no benefit to those guys. Because you get no credits, like commutation credits and work credits during a sentence. But you get no benefit from it if you're in that position. So to the governor's point, I think you should be able to go into court and have the judge look at this stuff and say, take this guy off parole, because it's useless.
Yeah, but, and I hear, and I hear what you're saying loud and clear, and I agree with you. But in terms of policy perspectives, the first sort of priority for me would be geriatric release for guys who have served the punitive aspect of the sentence behind the wall. And candidly, I mean, to go to your point, which I think which was really powerful, is to have an opportunity for judicial review to provide for that release. So, and what I'll do is, if you sign on the way out, Jenny will I'll send you a copy of our geriatric release report. Basically, we did a report, we surveyed 50 states on geriatric release, and we made recommendations both to Governor Murphy, then Governor Murphy, and the state legislature. So I'll share with you that report. But I hear loud and clear. So a lot of guys, and we've had a great conversation.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
So I just be honored if you said a few words.
Yeah. Well, first of all, he was my boss. I was deputy commissioner in DCA, and he was the governor, and just admired somebody that actually saw people. The challenge is you folks are invisible. You're invisible to the people that have power.
That's right.
And one of the realities, and so my dad knew a march arm in arm with Dr. King. I grew up in Harlem and Roxbury and Boston, in New Haven, Connecticut. So I grew up in the community. And one of the things that I've discovered, and I was running a school in Trenton, 100% of the kids were free and reduced lunch and black. And many of them had what they call PTSD, but it wasn't post, it was continuous. So I coined a term, and we're working with his staff to get a DRG called Urban Traumatic Stress Disorder, UTSD. And I'll tell you why that's important. Because the reality is that it's about the amygdala. It's as if there was a tiger in the room, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And so, right? And so I've said this to folks who come out of prison, it's like, that trauma, every now and then you get broken emotions, right? You get broken emotions. And so part of folks don't understand. I went to Princeton undergrad, I got my MBA in finance from Wharton. This could be a Princeton class. This could be a Wharton class. You are as smart as all those folks, but you're invisible because people don't take the time to understand those folks who are out there doing things. So one of the things, I'm Secretary of State as well, and Eddie Laporte is back there. Max is back there. Eddie ran the Faith-Based Institute that we're transforming into the Faith Action Center. And what we're doing is we're connecting all of the denominations around the state of New Jersey. The guy who's leading it, Samad Van Zandt, oversees the Baptist Convention, which has 350,000 people, 250 churches in 21 counties. And these folks have been doing some good stuff in the community, but disconnected. And what we want to do is really connect them so they can supplement Reentry Corporation to provide some of the guidance, some of the support. My dream is if I see someone homeless, I can make a call and the faith institution can get them to Reentry Corporation or somewhere. Because the reality is, and I've said this, people don't notice the folks that are struggling. And the reality is that a lot of people in power talk about this crazy trickle down. It's really people up. If we can get more people off welfare working, we can reduce taxes. That's how you reduce taxes.
Yep.
But people don't want to acknowledge that. And the other thing, just the reality is, people look at the world from a middle-class white value. There's a college shop. Why aren't you going for college? But people don't know anybody who went to college. They don't know that. And so when people don't understand, 50 years. You just don't understand how that touches me. 50 years. People don't understand that. And you're as eloquent as anybody. So what we want to do, and Governor Sherrill and I have talked about making New Jersey affordable no matter what your zip code is, no matter where you live, no matter who you are, no matter what you've done going forward. So we're committed to that. But we've got to partner with organizations. We have a very, very tough budget. But I think that with these faith institutions, we can provide some of that network. We're also looking to really connect jobs. And so I've brought the energy sector, the pharmaceutical sector, and the higher education and vocational program so we can begin to do this. Where I just came from the apprentice program in East Orange, where they had, 26 brothers and sisters who came from nowhere who are getting apprentice jobs.
What kind of apprentice job?
They had the laborers, they had, who else? They had like 4 or 5 unions.
Oh, union.
Yeah, union jobs. So part of it, a job is the best social program. And so we need to begin to really look at that. And so one of the things that I want to say, and some of you as old as I am, there's still hope. And this administration is following, on Governor McCarthy to really let you be visible. And I think a lot of the legislation you're talking about, very people who care don't even know about it.
Yep.
They don't even know those limitations. They don't even understand why are you doing parole. They don't understand why a brother who would not be here except for, for the previous governor, and you guys want to do the right thing. So part of my job as the first clergy elected statewide is to really let people know that a lot of the folks that you ignore or look down on are valuable to society. Are valuable to society. Now, I ran a program in Esmond Park called Fathers Make a Difference. We were with a lot of fathers coming out of prison, and a lot of folks know that the only good thing in their life were their kids. Oftentimes they can't see their kids. So we've got to deal with that. And so the whole broken relationships coming back. And it's a lot of things. And Reentry has been doing it pretty much on your own. A lot of it on your own. So if there's a way that the state can be supportive and really help there. So the reason I wanted to come out is that you are the folks that matter. You are the celebrities. You are the folks that if you're living the right life, you can transform your communities. So I want to acknowledge you. I want to honor you. I want to say you guys have been through a lot and you're still standing. And you took time to come here. You're not hurting anybody else. You're not doing it, but you're supporting others. But my ask of each of you, because we're dealing with a lot of young knuckleheads. We're dealing with a lot of young people who don't understand hard work. And so I've been talking about we've got to get back to that work ethic. So I ask each of you to really take time to really steer some of the folks you know who are listening to the wrong people. I wrote this book on influence called Intelligent Influence, and people don't realize we do what we do, think the way we think because of influence. And I use accents. A kid can be born in Brooklyn, Sydney, Australia, England, London, and they develop a different accent. And so think about all our influences, our favorite food, our culture, who we think is attractive, all those things. And what do we want for our kids? To stay away from bad influences. So I would guarantee every one of you had some bad influence. Everyone, you're no different than somebody who had good influence. And that's what I'm trying to communicate to society, that these aren't folks that, and I'll be honest, a lot of people say, oh, they're bad seeds. They were just bad seeds. No, you had influences that got you down the right path.
And a lot of guys didn't have opportunities.
They didn't have opportunities. And the other reality is that, I created this thing called living wage index. And actually the percentage of people who can pay their bills right now, only 25% in Trenton can pay their bills, 19% in Camden, 35% in New Brunswick. But, and so what happens is, kids are selling drugs, the parents turn a blind eye because that's the only way they can keep their house.
Yeah.
So, so those are the realities of this. And so, we want to work together, but we need you to help us to avoid preventive stuff.
So we're gonna send you, LJ, we're gonna send you a list of our concerns. So we'll send you
please.
on, Umar just shared on the intersection of DOC parole. Forget the gentleman's name all the way in the back.
Terrell.
No, not you, the guy behind you.
Daquan.
Daquan, also on parole and on the notion of parole afterwards. My whole thing is on geriatric release, and then we'll do also on employment. But
halfway houses too, right?
Yeah, halfway houses is always on our list. Because, it's always, it's common, that's what I was gonna talk about next. And we've got our conference, we talked about earlier, on April 2nd at St. Peter's, where we're focusing on trauma.
That urban, and use that term, urban traumatic stress disorder, because what that does is that allows people to understand. And the thing I say, if you break your leg, you're not gonna run the 100-meter dash. But if you have broken emotions, people expect you to be normal, right? And so by doing that, what that does is really explain that these aren't bad seeds, they're just dealing with another kind of medical challenge. And that way we can begin to address it early on.
And we would just like to see if, not only in terms of diversion programs, but in court programs, if the court would have the ability to refer people to psychiatric, psychological health care. Yeah, so, and we're just gonna, in the back?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know how important this is, but I think it's very important because it's still like mental illness, right? Years ago, I addressed the system with it, and everybody trying to blind eye and say, "Oh, that's a grievous problem." It was dealing with the way people are transported in different facilities, doctor appointments, and, mental health counseling or whatever. In those, I call them dog days and vans. Right now, I still be having like nightmares. Like if I get hit by something in this thing, I'm dying because I had no support in there. They handcuff you from the front, they got a strap in the back that you're supposed to hold on to. How? I don't understand. If that van roll over, I'm dead. I know a lot of people that refuse to go to treatment because of that.
Yeah.
They say, no, I can't get in there. And it's so close quarters, like, I ain't never been in a cell that small. I did have my life in prison. Now that I'm proud of it. But I still think about that when I'm driving. You know what I'm saying? I think about that van. Yeah. And right now, I see I go through mental counseling for a lot of stuff that happened to me in prison. So that's like one of the issues that I wanted to bring up.
So wait, is your issue the van, or is your issue, or you're talking about the mental health?
No, the vans, the way they transport people in the vans.
Okay. I know, transportation is awful.
I sat in the vans when it was like 80-degree weather, 90-degree weather, no air conditioning, just sitting there.
Yeah.
I was at St.
All right, Cal, I hear you, I'm gonna make a note, but Calvin Bass, I gotta, proper names, Calvin is the one who runs this group, and Calvin, I have the privilege of working in New Jersey Reentry. And you wanted to address yourself, Governor?
Yeah.
Yes, we was at the MLK event together.
Right, exactly, yeah.
It was always a pleasure honor to see you.
Yeah.
As well as.
You're always well dressed. You're always.
Oh, thank you. Yes,
Let's not get carried away.
I learned from these guys that's before. But what we were speaking about, and I spoke with the governor before, and what we was really gonna speak about, we hoping that we can revisit this with you again. And we was talking about the trauma and you alluded to at MLK Day, and it stuck in my head. 11:30, I'm sitting in my living room, I always reach out to the governor, I shared it with him. I knew he looked at it, he says, perfect idea, let's make it happen. So I'm happy that you're here. And I had the men to come out, my comrades and brothers that was behind the wall with me. And we was talking about different things that affected us. And I was sharing with them what you shared. And I was hoping that we can get a commitment from you, that you would be willing to meet with us again. We can go into more detail about it and just be a heart-to-heart conversation. That's why the governor put this set up like this to be heart-to-heart connection with Reentry. Also, I was shooting it by everybody, and Sharuka said it was the speaker's gonna be Sharuka, Carrie Moore, Heishi Mohe, and Dow Muhammad. And we was talking about the mental health as well as the governor and how it affected us and the things that it done. But what I was saying, as we talking about it, I said it to the governor, I said, well, I'm gonna ask the lieutenant governor, will he be willing to come aboard? We designed what we will call a lieutenant governor reentry task force right here. You know what I'm saying? Because you understand what's going on, but the governor understands what's going on. Because it's a black and white thing to a degree, but it's just as you said before, I would say when you behind the wall, you wear black, white, or candy, right? It affects us. I did 38 years, 6 months and 12 days when I was 14 years old. I decided I didn't know right from wrong, but in the same perspective, later on, Governor Christie signs a law, a child at 14 years old, brain is not fully developed. Okay? So a lot of us that was once young, like T. Tyson and Sharuka and the rest of us, so these issues that still affects us and still affect the generation that's coming along, because we feel like this here. We went in a burden to the taxpayer, but we returned back to our community an asset. So we want to work together to be pillars in our community. We want to work with you because of the things that you said, and we all come together.
I definitely want to, I don't know if it's a formal task force or other things, but this is near and dear to my heart, because if we can get folks that have been struggling the most in society to be successful, we transform everything. That's right. One thing I'll say, I spoke to something called the land improvement contractor. There are about 300 of them. I was a keynote speaker a couple of years ago. I'm probably the only one who didn't vote for Trump because they were there. But believe it or not, they do some good stuff. They will take anybody out of prison where they do the land stuff. The guy named Dennis McCullough who's in Patterson, he wants to do that. So there's some jobs. So I'll time with you. Good. Because they're looking for folks, and you can earn up to 60. You do a good job there, you can earn up to 6 figures. I'll connect you with Dennis. So there are opportunities. And so this faith-based network that Eddie and Samaj are doing is going to provide that kind of support, and we can do some of the trauma stuff. And now the thing I ask is, I've written 9 books, and writing is important. We don't have to use names, but I would love to have the stories. Yep. See, I think one of the things is most people don't understand. They don't have empathy. Where empathy is, so they don't understand what you guys went through to be where you are. That's right. But as I said, but for the grace of God, I'd be homeless. And anyone who's true faith understands that. I'm not any more special than any of you here. That's why I talk about influencers. So I would love to really collect some of the stories. We don't have to use names.
Well, we could do
some of the
stories. I mean, we could even tape stories.
Yeah, I would tape those stories. So I'm gonna have to run to another. I have about 5 minutes.
Just before we go, was there anybody that you had scheduled to speak who had not spoken yet?
Yes, and that was you. I mean, you had quite a few. I mean, you had what? Guy, did you speak? Yeah.
Everything that needs to be said is being said. You don't have to force no space for me.
Yeah, and we'll be back. This will be a continuous thing.
Is there anybody else that was scheduled to speak? Just before the Lieutenant LG leaves? Okay, I just want to make sure I follow proper protocol. Sure.
One thing though, that he mentioned, the governor mentioned about the young people. I definitely would like to see more focus on the younger people. I have a son that's in these streets and he wants to do well. Right. He'll jump on a job. Right. But he has some experience in the system. People are not all that gung-ho about hiring him. So I would like to see
And you should get him to talk to Ulysses.
Yeah, I'm working on that. Yeah.
Okay, last, and we're gonna wrap up because he's gotta go last. But even though, I don't mind that hat you're wearing, but I'll deal with it.
How you doing? My name is Shaq Clark. I just came home, been 10 years. My major issue is housing.
Yeah.
You know, housing is the foundation, you know what I'm saying, for you to do any and everything. Like when you come home, like you said, the IDs and stuff like that and everything, that's most important. But housing is more important than anything. Because if you got job interviews and stuff, if you live in the shelter,
You can't do
shelters,
it. You can't work and live in the shelter.
You can't do nothing, you can't take a shower, you can't make yourself presentable to be able to get that job. You know, so if you don't have housing, you don't really have nothing. And then coming home, and then you get the ID and stuff, when you try to get an apartment or something, you need a credit check. We don't have none of that yet. We just came home from 10, 20, 30 years. We had to have a job or nothing. So we can't even apply for housing. So it should be something set in place.
So let me just jump in.
And not just get thrown into.
So let me just do two things quick, because LJ, I just want to be respectful of his time. So, I mean, biggest bucket of money is broken, right?
Yeah.
And so what we're trying to do is, in terms of reentry, working county by county, is setting aside, like say, for example, if you get temporary rental assistance, what we're looking for to do is, and they do it in certain counties, is have a building dedicated to folks coming home for reentry, and then we can match reentry services.
Yeah.
So to get the county office to commit that on reentry housing. But I hear what you're saying, but the name of the game is, what we were talking about earlier, is this Trump's bill.
Yeah.
What we're really concerned about is the number of people that are gonna lose their eligibility.
Right.
And that's what we have to work, and that comes up, they're promulgating the regulations in June, and they're publishing them in October. All right, I'm getting the cut off.
But you're absolutely right, yeah, I'm.
All right, so can we say final prayer?
Yes, yeah.
You want to say?
I mean, I'll.
Or do you, somebody else?
Somebody want to-
Go ahead. Yeah.
I'll pray. Let us be in a state of prayer. Dear God, we thank you so much for bringing this incredible group together. Dear God, we've all been through challenges and other things, but dear God, we know that we have you. We know that Jesus Christ is our Savior. We thank you for the guidance of Governor McGreevy and his entire team. Dear God, help everyone in this room to be seen, everyone in this room to have hope, and to know that because there are people of faith, that we can build the society that you call us to build, that we will make sure that everyone has the support that they need. Dear God, help everyone to have hope here, to know that there is a bright future ahead because people genuinely do care in positions of influence and no influence. So send us forward today, dear God, with new hope, with new energy and new excitement, and help us to remember to help those who are struggling, those who are young, and pull up those who are vulnerable. In your name we pray. Amen. God bless you all. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
All right, so I think. All right, so if you could sign.